Hi, everyone. Welcome to our second episode of our Mind, Body, Spirit series. We'll be starting in just a few moments. We're just going to let people log in. And please take this moment as we are preparing to get whatever art supplies you might have lying around. If you have markers or if you have color pencils or pastels or anything that you might have that if you would like to participate. Again, for those who are just coming on, we're just waiting a few minutes for people to log in. If you have any art supplies that are around, please feel free to bring those so you can participate. Well, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Jennifer Higgins Spires, and I am the programs manager for Debbie Strain Foundation. And I wanted to welcome Emily Lipson, who is a licensed professional counselor and registered art therapist. And she is going to do our Mind, Body, Spirit series today. And I wanted to let you know that this is an interactive series, so please feel free if you have any art supplies lying around, if you have crayons or color pencils or even a pen or a pencil, feel free to pick those up and follow along. This is going to be recorded, so if you want to participate later, you'll feel free to do that. Otherwise, you feel free to ask questions during this series. I'll be fielding the questions and asking the questions live. Just have fun. We're gonna have a really good time, and thank you for being here today. And now I'm going to hand over the program to Emily.
Thank you so much, Jen. So I may have met some of you before if you were at either the last two advocacy days. We did an art therapy session there. And so if I have met you, thanks for coming back and seeing me on this. And if you were not at either of those advocacy days, then hello and thank you for having me and welcome. Today will be a little different than the kind of stuff that we did do at the retreats, because that was more of a group art therapy kind of session where we had a theme and we did an art therapy directive, which I'll get into the question of what is art therapy. And in that we did some art together and then had a group discussion of processing after. Today we're going to be focusing more on the art as therapy side, which is therapeutic art, because art is just relaxing in its nature, for you guys to do at home on your own. We'll go through the different benefits, when and how and why to use art for relaxation, coping with stress, coping with pain, coping with, really any of that kind of stuff that we might even feel on a day-to-day, and using art in a safe way that can just help you feel those mental and emotional and physical benefits in your own home. So yeah, let's get started. First slide, please. Well, there's our title. I guess next slide now. So, what is art therapy? So art therapy is a mental health profession that uses art making, the creative process, and psychological theory to explore emotions and understanding of our internal and external world. Art therapy can be used for individuals, individual therapy, group therapy, can be used in communities, people, and populations of all ages. Art therapy is really great way to express ourselves when words aren't enough. Sometimes we can't quite find the words to articulate exactly how we're feeling or to process an experience. And art is often another level or another avenue to help explore those thoughts, feelings, experiences, and to process them and to talk about them sometimes without talking. It allows us to let go of some of the weight that we're carrying so that we can explore and interact with those thoughts and feelings, experiences from a distance and in a safer way. So kind of helps take those things from inside our mind and inside our body and put them on paper or in something that we create with our hands, which gives us a little bit of space from it. And sometimes being able to look at something that we've created as opposed to just thinking about these, thoughts and images and feelings in our brain, it helps us process it more by having that 1 degree of separation, kind of step back from it, looking at it from the outside. Art brings us a sense of control and power of choice, which, of course, especially with cancer, other kinds of, chronic illness, chronic pain, and just a lot of other things that are out of our control in life. Art is something that does give us bring us a sense of control. We get to choose what we're creating. We get to choose how much or how little control we have over the art that we're creating. Gives us a power of choice. What do we want it to look like? What materials do we want to use it? And sometimes just being able to have a little bit of power and choice in an otherwise life that sometimes feels like we don't have very much control over the things that are happening to us, or we don't have a lot of say over what goes on and what we're experiencing. Art gives us an avenue to have a bit more of that control and choice. And lastly, art therapy allows us to bypass our defenses. It opens up the unconscious to process at a more meaningful level. Again, when we're using words, trying to verbally articulate things, we might intellectualize things. We might, have our guard up still, but art, whether we like it or not, kind of opens that part up and allows our unconscious to come forward, which then creates another level, another degree of things to process. Sometimes we're creating art, thinking about something, processing something, and throughout the process, or maybe looking at the product when we're done, we realize, oh, wow, like I'm making this connection. Something resonates with me that I wasn't even trying to make. I wasn't even trying to think about. But that was kind of like my unconscious shining through. And that's really helpful, especially when that guard that we have up is often a roadblock to healing, to therapy. It's a defense mechanism that art really helps bypass. And by the way, anytime you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat and we will just kind of throw them out as they come. So now we're going to get into the difference between art therapy, which is what I was just talking about, and art as therapy, which is more of what we'll be doing today, because I'm going to be giving you guys art directives, art exercises that are safe and fine for you guys to do at home with, not necessarily in a therapy session. And so it's more about, again, how art has just this therapeutic nature in and of itself. Creating art is relaxing. So art as therapy or therapeutic art making has benefits that are driven by the act of creative expression while engaging in a relaxing activity. So basically, like I said, art in and of itself can be really relaxing. It could, when we're feeling stressed and overwhelmed and we doodle or do a coloring book or whatever it is that you like, it could be, like the most basic of things. You don't have to be an artist to engage in art, can be relaxing. Art as therapy or therapeutic art making can be self-directed, and its primary objective is just allowing the creative process itself to promote that relaxation, self-exploration, and creativity. Whereas with art therapy is facilitated in a therapy session with a licensed art therapist who's there to help you identify and process the emotions and insights that emerge from the art making. So as I talked about in the previous slide, art therapy can bring a lot of stuff up. It can get emotional. It can, we can become flooded. We might have a lot of thoughts and feelings that wouldn't otherwise come up if we were just sitting there, on our own. And so having a licensed art therapist there with you to help you process those feelings, to ask you the questions, to identify those, to talk it through with you, is really important for the for your emotional and mental health safety. It's goal oriented and it's driven by the specific therapeutic needs of a client. So just like with regular talk therapy, which art therapy combines talk therapy and the art. When you start with a therapist and you go in for sessions, you identify goals, life goals, mental health goals, behavioral goals, stuff like that. And so the art therapy, the art that is done in those sessions often is relevant to or reflective of those goals that you've set with your therapist. And they often match your specific therapeutic needs. So that is the difference. So again, today we'll be doing more of art as therapy, therapeutic art making. But if you are interested in art therapy with an art therapist as your form of mental health therapy, here on the next slide, I have included a couple links to help you find your own art therapist.
Before I move on, we did have some questions from the audience. We have Nadios from Uganda joining us. Thank you for tuning in. And she would like to ask what your story is and how did you know you wanted to be an art therapist?
Good question. Thank you for asking. So in high school, I was into art, but not enough to want to be an artist, not enough to want to make a career out of it. And I also always really liked psychology and just learning about psychology and how people's minds and feelings work. And I also always liked helping people. Like I always loved listening to people and giving advice and that kind of stuff. And so when I was met with the question of what do I want to study in college? And I was like, I have no idea. There are too many options. I thought about what are a couple things that I like? Well, I like art. And so I literally just did some Google searches of art related degrees. And I stumbled upon art therapy where I was like, what is that? And it sounded really cool. And I was like, wow, this combines like the two things that I'm interested in. I can do the therapy, the psychology thing. I could do the art thing without having to be an artist as my career. And I saw that and I was like, that's the thing for me. And I stuck with it. I found some undergrad universities that offered pre-art therapy programs. Although most people, you can just double major in art and psychology or major in a minor. But that also left me with too many decisions. So I found a pre-art therapy program specifically and have followed it since. Are there any other questions?
Right now, that was the only question.
Okay. So yeah, here, and this will be uploaded after, so you guys can find these links, but on the arttherapy.org/art therapist locator, there's a big map of That pretty much just shows you everywhere that a registered or licensed art therapist is. So that's a good way to find one wherever you are, or just on Psychology Today, which is, if any of you are not familiar, just kind of like this search engine for therapists, psychologists, different kinds of like specialists in that nature. And then there is a way to search specifically for art therapists on that link too. So if you are looking to find your own art therapist, these are some quick and easy ways to locate one. All right, so now we're going to move into the art making time. So next slide, please. All right, so we have 3 different exercises that I'm going to walk us through today. Again, if any of you have art supplies with you ready to go, I'm not sure how many of you that's going to be, so I don't want to make any of you sit and wait too long if you're not doing the art. But if you are and you want to kind of do it with me, please type in the chat, hey, can you pause for a second? I want to, do this part with the art, and absolutely do that. But if not, like we said, this will be uploaded after, so you can go back and look at it and kind of follow the instructions if you do want to do it in your own time. But so I've included a few exercises, art directives that we'll walk through that are just little prompts that you can use at home with easy at-home supplies. You don't have to have anything special for these, mostly just like, pencils, markers, watercolor paints, regular paints if you have them. And each have different therapeutic benefits to them. So yeah, we will walk through these, and then we could talk a little bit more if you guys have questions, or we can just kind of share of like how and when to use these, specifically how they might be helpful with people experiencing cancer or survivors of cancer, and that, kind of more specifically that avenue of things. So first, we have draw your breath. This is something that is honestly kind of just like a fun doodle. It's good for when you're feeling anxious, overwhelmed, frustrated, dysregulated, or really anything that you either need some grounding or really just like a bit of a distraction, because it really just tunes you in, gives you something to focus on, and it's satisfying. So you can get out a paper or canvas and anything to color with, to paint with. I have example here that'll show you guys that I used watercolor just because it's quick, it's easy, it's fluid, but you could totally use markers, crayons, colored pencils, whatever you want. So this one, we're combining a little bit of mindfulness. So before we begin, even, you can all take a slow, deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just to kind of give us a quick moment of grounding, get us in the zone. And then using your medium of choice. So I typically start this part maybe like with a marker or a pen. You're going to take your paper and begin to draw slow, steady squiggles across your paper, allowing your breath to guide your lines. So you want to focus as you're going on slowing down your breath, bringing yourself back to the present moment. If you'd like, and you are especially really needing that sense of grounding and regulation, you can go real slow and you can draw upwards kind of lines as you breathe in, downwards sort of as you breathe out, to give yourself that structured breathing. You can think about, as you breathe in, thinking about things that ground you. And as you breathe out, think about releasing things that are weighing on you, sort of just a relaxing way to let go of some of that stress or tension that you might be holding as you do this. So I did an example here, but so this part is literally just squiggles. Again, very slow to kind of focus on your breathing. You want to just cover as much or as little as you want. And then we can talk about a variation after, but there's also a way that you can do this if you are just feeling like pent up tension and frustration or anger, really, and you just kind of like want to get it out safely and in a healthy way. You could also just like angry scribble all over the paper if you have more of that like physical release that you need. But either way, you're going to end up with something like this. And then you're going to pick a few colors and begin coloring in the shapes that have been formed by the squiggles and the overlapping lines. So, all these little like circles, half circles, triangles, squares. You could feel free to pair this with some relaxing music in the background while you go. I have one that I started on here, but so I just took some watercolors and painted in the different shapes. And it's kind of just like creating one of those abstract coloring book pages for yourself. But the lines were, again, they helped ground you. And then once you went into the coloring or painting part or whatever medium you used, you're really just focusing on staying in the lines, being distracted, and it just is really relaxing and nice. And you could fill up the whole page. You could fill up only some of the shapes. You could choose colors that relax you. If you want something like a visual guide for that relaxation, you could just pick your favorite colors. You could pick colors that represent how you're feeling. And yeah, so that one's kind of just like a doodle coloring page sort of thing. That is just a good exercise that you can use wherever and whenever. That really is beneficial for anything.
So a question has actually come in about this. Someone had said that they have recently been learning about the importance of our nervous system and the role it plays in our overall well-being. And can you talk about the importance of regulating your nervous system?
Yeah. So, well, as most of us probably experience or have experienced, anxiety is an example of a dysregulated nervous system. And when we're feeling dysregulated, physical things happen, like our heart is beating fast, or our chest might feel tight, or maybe we get hot, or maybe we get shaky. And breathing is a really great way, as anyone who has been in therapy or yoga or any kind of like mindfulness thing, we learn breathing because it helps regulate your nervous system. It helps regulate those physical somatic symptoms, the anxiety. Our thoughts slow down when we slow down our breathing. Your mind is racing and your heart is racing and you're thinking a million miles a minute. We just need to take a step back and really slow down our breathing, do some other things that help regulate us. But when our nervous system is regulated, the rest of our mind and body is more regulated and therefore able to manage whatever it is that we're thinking about. We can think more straight when we are regulated. We can breathe better. We can move better. We are in less pain, right? Like if we're talking about with chronic pain, for instance, obviously being dysregulated, things like anxiety, stress often trigger that pain. And so regulating our nervous system and our mind and body in those moments has all those kinds of benefits. I hope that answers the question. Any other questions on this exercise in of itself, like how to use it, anything like that?
So far, nothing else.
Okay. And yeah, if there's any kind of variation that you want to make to this, like for instance, some people, rather than just like coloring in the shapes with like one color, they'll kind of color it in with different patterns, like let's say blue makes circles and orange makes spirals, so kind of like filling in each shape with a different pattern if you wanted to focus on something like that. Another one that's also good for if you're feeling more of like that pent up, like anger, frustration, sort of tension. I talked about like the scribbling it all out to get that release. Another one that you can do is, instead of starting off with the slow squiggles, you could actually start off by thinking about what is bothering you, what might be stressing you out, frustrating you, causing this tension buildup, and just kind of crumple up piece of paper, get it all out, really kind of have that release through your fists and uncrumple the paper. And then in the lines that the paper creates, you can trace the crumple lines and use that as your outline of like your scribbles, and then do the next part where you can color in those lines. So that's just kind of another variation of more of just, again, like getting out that pent up energy, if you need that more like harsh release as opposed to something slow. We could go to the next one if there are no questions. All right, so this next one is transforming your worries. So this one combines a little bit of journaling, if you will, or list making, or just some sort of writing with art. Again, I'm sure that journaling or just writing out thoughts and feelings is something that a lot of us are familiar with. It is a great tool to use, kind of similar as getting those thoughts and feelings out from inside of us and putting them onto something separate, onto something physical, onto something that is separated from us. So we're going to be combining that with some art doodling as well. So this one is also good for when you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, anxious, worried, especially. Same kind of materials, paper, drawing stuff, writing materials. And if you want, this is something you want to spend time on, even collage materials. We're going to be filling up the page after we write on it. And so if you're into collaging, you could even fill it up with, cut and pasted images, words, shapes, kind of things. It could be a multimedia sort of journal page if you want. Whatever you're feeling, there's no right or wrong way to do this. So to start, we're going to take
Sorry, Emily, before we go on to this next, we got a question just as we advance to the other slide. Someone had wanted to see an example of a finished art piece for the breath exercise.
Oh, to see my finished example?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Mostly finished. There's a couple shapes I didn't fill in, but that's okay because you don't have to fill in all of it. So do we see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So yeah, as you can see, started with all the squiggles and then just kind of went in with watercolor after and painted in the different shapes like a coloring book. Okay. Any other questions yet? No. Okay. So for this one, we're going to, again, start with a notebook, piece of paper, journal, whatever you have, and some sort of writing utensil, and start by writing out what's on your mind, and all the things that are weighing you down or weighing on your mind in this moment. It could be a long to-do list. It could be a stream of consciousness thoughts of, just everything that is racing through your mind right now. It could be nothing super intense. You can just write out your thoughts and see where it takes you. So going to do that. Is anyone, I'm wondering if I should give a minute for that. Is anyone doing this live, or if anyone wants me to pause, just go ahead and type it out to Jen if you're doing this with me. No? Okay. Jen, that's a no, I assume.
There are a couple people who are doing this live.
Okay. So if you guys want to just, take a second to just write out what's on your mind on a piece of paper. And then next, what you're going to do is circle any words that you see that on their own look like they could be a positive or comforting word. So even if the context, the sentence, even if it's, all the things you're stressed about, if you pick out, a couple words like breathe or sleep, or, things that kind of on their own, it's like, oh, this has some sort of like more positive connotation to it, or this feels like a safe word. Just go ahead and circle those, or bold them, or make a shape around them, but really make them stand out. And then after you do that, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to go through your paper or your notepad, and you're going to paint or draw over the negativity, which is everything except the circled words. So you can fill up the space with any kind of color, shape, design, pattern, imagery that feels right to you. Again, this one you can collage too if you want. And the idea is that by the time you're done, the circled words of positivity or comfort or safe words will be standing out, and the rest of your worries have been transformed into something beautiful that you created. So here's an example. And remember, like, this is not meant to be beautiful, like some masterpiece artwork, but more of just, you took those like bland words in your rushed handwriting that you were writing out, and you drew over them, you painted over them, or you made some sort of design. So you'll see in a second, mine is quite messy, but looking at it still, it brings out all these bright colors that I used, and these patterns, and those negative words and feelings aren't standing out quite so much anymore. And therefore, when I look at it, I don't feel as overwhelmed as I did when I looked at it when it was just a list of all of my worries and all the things I have to do today and all the things that are stressing me out. So here's this. So I started, you could see all the blue marker is all just the stuff that I wrote out first. So it's just like a page of all these things I was writing out. And I circled some words like breath, slow, safe, sleep, happy, and fill my cup. And then over everything else, I drew some leaves. Oh, I turned those circled words, some of them into sort of like flower-like shapes, or just colorful and bright. I drew just like some big leaves over the stuff, just because anything nature related makes me feel relaxed. I like to, visually, I like how it looks. Nature is, like a safe and relaxing kind of peaceful thing to me. So I wanted to choose some images that represented that for me. I did some just like wave-like lines at the bottom. Again, that felt kind of relaxing to me, peaceful, calm, some clouds at the top, really just like filled up the space with things that felt either more positive and bright or just neutral. And so you can see here how what was once just a page of my pretty messy handwriting, because I was just like speed writing it all out, turned into just like a bright and colorful doodle page, where the only things that are standing out are the words that make me feel good, like breath and safe and slow and fill my cup. And so again, any kind of creative twist that you want to put on that, you can, but the main idea is getting all your thoughts out, making the positive or neutral or comforting or safe things kind of stand out as a reminder that, even amidst all of this chaos and the negativity, or even amidst all of our worries, we can still kind of find like silver lining in things, or we can still find positivity in things. We can still find beauty in things. And, we're not totally erasing all of the negativity behind it either. I didn't just take a black paintbrush and paint over everything so that you can't even see it anymore. Those words are still shining through, which kind of represents, like the worries are still there. They're still in the back of my mind, but I have the control to kind of like shift my thinking and refocus on the positive things, or kind of just like break up those worries into little pieces too, which helps to not feel so overwhelmed, especially if you use this exercise as, if you did like a to-do list, it's just this long list of all these to-dos that are really overwhelming. And to look at that list is stressful. It feels like such a big thing to tackle, but to break it up into small pieces, that's often something that helps us, take a step back, take a breather, feel a little better about it, makes it feel a lot more achievable when we look at it that way. And so circling those words and breaking it up from the rest of it represents that in a way too. Any questions?
Yeah, question that came in. For those who have children, how early can you introduce art therapy?
So in terms of this art as therapy stuff, actually both. I would say both as early as they are able to create art and or talk. But again, like art therapy is something, you know, with an art therapist in a therapy session is something that is also used for really young kids, because especially for the really young ones who aren't yet able to articulate their feelings, art therapy is really great for them. It helps process things that sometimes they don't even realize they're processing. It helps them express things that they don't even quite understand yet, that, you know, if they were just talking to a therapist, they wouldn't be able to express in order to work on. So, and then of course, like most kids love art and it's therapeutic for all ages. So, yeah, as honestly, really as young as they're able to pick something up and draw or paint, finger painting, even working with clay. And then with this art as therapy stuff you can do at home, same kind of thing. You know, the scribble drawing is something that you could have a 3-year-old do. You know, they don't need to perfectly stay in the lines, but if you walk them through breathing through drawing the lines, and then you kind of show them like, hey, you could color in these scribbles. Any age can benefit from that, because that's relaxing for everyone. It gives them a structured kind of thing to focus on too.
Yeah, thank you. And I also wanted to mention that I am an avid doodler. And for me, like when you were doing your the exercise with the words and circling the words, I did something similar, but I would write words and then I would doodle around it. So then I would hide the word, but then like create some sort of art around it. So this is actually taken from my doodle wall from my old office, but like I wrote like a couple words. You can't even see them anymore because I doodled around it so much. Like I would write like maybe like a word that I was very stressed or something like that, like gosh or something like that, and I would like doodle around the G and the O and the S, and so like you can't even see it anymore, but it would be so therapeutic for me because then you wouldn't even see it and it looked fun. I would put it on my wall, and it was 8 years of doodle, so people wouldn't see it coming in, but they would see it going out, and it was just something, a fun exercise that I would do. I would do a doodle for the day, and it was just something I could do to put my mind to it, to put my stress to something useful.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that this is something that you can attest to as has been helpful for you. You've done it yourself, you enjoy it. And yeah, that's exactly right. It can be used anyway, whether you want to totally cover up the words or let them peek through a little bit. For some people, you know, you might want to write it up and rip it up so that it's not even, you can't even read it anymore. And then maybe create a collage with the ripped up pieces, you know, or you can paint over entirely the words and then create a new layer on top if your goal is to really just like rid of these things, especially if they're worries that you know, aren't relevant anymore and you're trying to let go of them. You don't need to hold on to them anymore. You know, things like that. It is really therapeutic to have this symbolic art activity of just like shedding, erasing of those thoughts and worries that you simply don't have to hold on to, at least not anymore. So yeah, thank you, Jen. I'm glad that you also are a fan of that. Okay, any other questions on this or anything? Or comments anyone want to share? Okay. Not, we can go, oh, there we are. Ahead to the next slide. And so this one is based around positive affirmations, which again is something that is often used a lot in therapy and mindfulness-based practices, any of that fun stuff that we know to be good for our mental health. So this one is good for when, again, you're feeling stressed, discouraged, insecure, sad, or just as an everyday reminder of your worth and strength. So you can use it if you're needing a little pick me up. You can use it if you need a little confidence boost, or just like a reminder, like I said, a day-to-day of reminder of your worth and your strength, what you're made of. Because sometimes life is hard and we beat ourselves up a little bit, and we need to remember to build ourselves back up. So materials for this, also whatever you have, either same stuff we've been using, or if you have other kind of craft like materials, if you want to do like a mixed media kind of thing like this, for this, like a collage, or glue stuff to your paper or to your canvas, whatever you want. This one is really full creative freedom. The only thing that is kind of more like a directed prompt for this, which the art then revolves around, is creating and writing your positive affirmation. So for those of you who are not familiar with affirmations, they're short phrases or statements that we repeat to ourselves to help shift the way that we're thinking, to be more positive, to be more confident, or to feel empowered. Positive affirmations replace negative beliefs with positive ones. So I'll give a quick second. Does anyone have a positive affirmation or affirmations that they use or have used that they love and want to type in the chat for us? No pressure if not, but would love to hear what people have come up with or have used.
I personally like to use "You Are Enough."
Love that one. And it's funny because the example one that I made is pretty similar to that. It's definitely along those lines. Have we gotten anything in the chat? No. Okay.
Yes, someone says, when I am not feeling well, I like to say things like, my body is my best friend. It supports me to the best of its ability.
That's beautiful. That's a great one. And especially connecting this back to the community that we are working with right now, and that I am speaking to, especially as positive affirmations about your body, its strength, are really good ones, because when you are going through or have gone through something that takes such a toll on your body, it can feel obviously really discouraging, and it can be hard to find that strength. It can be hard to still love your body after that. And so to have these positive affirmations to remind yourself of all that your body does for you and all that it is still capable of, how strong it is, especially helpful, again, like relating it back to cancer and stomach cancer specifically. And if you want to actually quickly flip to the next slide, I have some examples that I could walk through. So, examples of positive affirmations: I am a resilient survivor. I am strong and I am capable. I am enough. I have enough. I am in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. I can do hard things. I am worthy of what I desire. I do my best, and my best is good enough. I love deeply and deserve love. So again, these affirmations can reflect any kind of goal that you have for yourself, for your life, for your mental health, for your decision making, for the way that you view and perceive yourself. You can have different kinds of affirmations for different days, and like what you're needing on each of those days. So let's go back to the last slide, please, or the one before. So going back to this, so what we're going to do is begin by choosing a statement that represents a positive belief or attitude that you want to cultivate. So again, if you already have a positive affirmation that you are sticking to, you can go ahead and use that one. If you want to come up with a new one based on something you have been struggling with, something you've been feeling insecure about, something, a reminder to yourself based on like a goal that you are working toward, really just anything, like it says, a belief or an attitude that you want to cultivate, start cultivating or have more of. So once you pick that, you're going to say it out loud to yourself. So I am enough. or one that I did, and I'll show you guys my example after, is I do my best and my best is good enough. So you're going to say it out loud. That part is important because, again, if you've learned about positive affirmations, you know that it's not just writing it down or looking at it, but really saying it out loud. It's kind of like a fake it till you make it thing. You know, look at yourself in the mirror, say it to yourself, be consistent with it, do it on a daily basis. This part's really important because the more we hear ourselves say it, the more we see it, the more we say it to ourselves, the more we start to really embody it and believe it. So you're going to come up with your statement, you're going to say it out loud, and then you're going to write it down in the middle or wherever you want of your paper or your canvas. I chose big letters because obviously I want it to stand out. The point of this at the end is, as you'll see in the last bullet, is we're going to display it somewhere that you can be reminded of it. It could be somewhere private. You know, it could be in your car or on your bathroom mirror. It could be on the background of your phone, you know, that is password protected. It could be on your front door, wherever you want to be reminded by it, so that every time you pass it, you can either say it to yourself quietly, say it to yourself out loud, just think it. So you're going to write it down the middle of your paper, and then just close your eyes for a moment and take a second to visualize and embrace that affirmation. So again, mine is, I do my best and my best is good enough. And I want to really close my eyes, visualize what that looks like to me, what that means to me. You know, let those feelings and imagery come up for me, and just, again, embrace it for a moment. And then you're going to just decorate and create some art around it. Decorate the rest of the space around your affirmation. You could paint, you could doodle, you could draw pictures of things, you could collage, glue pictures all over it. You could, you know, really whatever you want. You could cut out your affirmation and glue it onto some, you know, like another canvas or page, whatever that you're working on. But the idea is to just like really create an art piece out of the main focus being this affirmation, so that it's visually appealing. And it's also something that throughout your whole process of creating this, you're really looking at the affirmation, and you're taking it in and you're focusing on it, and creating something around it too. So again, like that sense of power, that sense of choice. It's like, I am making this, I am creating this, I am making this happen, I'm making it true, is an empowering feeling. So mine is just, I just like doodle watercolored around this, but I just really had fun with it. Like, is it the masterpiece of my life? No, but you know what? It's colorful. It has different patterns and designs. It draws you into the middle of it. And I just had fun with it. And again, while I had fun with it, I was staring at these big letters in the middle of the page that state my affirmation of, I do my best and my best is good enough. And that's something that I just really want to try and remind myself as often as I can. So again, really open-ended. Any questions on this one? Or comments? Anyone want to share?
I really do like this exercise because you can make it so personalized to you, because there is, of course, no right or wrong answer to any art therapy at all, but it could be something that's like so deep and intuitive to you, and then you can just make it you, and you can either hide it or you can put it somewhere. But it's just, I really like this exercise. So thank you for showing this to us.
Thank you. And if any of you have ever done vision boards before, this is something that you can combine with that kind of thing too, is like creating a vision board and then either writing or cutting out and pasting the affirmation on that vision board, so that the vision board is, you know, like all the goals that you have for yourself, or like you did it for this year, or for the next few years, or just for your life in general, or for the kind of person that you want to be. And then having this affirmation on it as well. I like the idea of combining them because it combines like the kind of life that you want to have, the kind of person you want to be, but also like the belief system that you want to embrace and cultivate in that vision board too. So that's another that's another way of going about this if any of you are familiar with or into vision boards.
Yeah, a comment came in saying vision boards are so much fun, especially paired with the affirmations.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So again, vision board, like you can just find a bunch of pictures and collages, or pictures and like, magazine cutouts, whatever that resonate with you, that reflect some goal that you have, some belief system that you have, something that you want for yourself that you want to work toward, and then having this affirmation on it too, to really like put words to it, and add that extra layer. Any other comments or questions coming in? Okay. So that's it for the art exercises. For those of you that were able to do it along with me, or at least, do a little bit of it, thank you for participating. And hopefully some of you can, come back to this after and just like write down what these exercises are, or maybe you already did, and try this out in your own time. And, feel free to send an email or comment on the page and let us know if you tried it, how it went. If you guys want to send photos, you totally can, but also like this stuff is meant to be private to you too. That's what's beautiful about art, is you could share it or you cannot. So again, thank you for the time, and then just want to open it up to a few minutes of discussion and or questions. Jen, I want to also give you the floor if you want to share at all about your experience in using like art as therapy, especially throughout your journey with stomach cancer, and how it helped surviving and just like getting through those times physically, mentally, emotionally, and from your experience, how you think others could benefit from this that are here today.
Before I do that, one comment did come in. Someone had said that they love to set goals for themselves in different areas of their life. So vision boards do help them with their visuals, and getting affirmations help them keep their thoughts positive.
Yeah.
So I think everyone should do vision boards, and everyone should practice affirmations and self-compassion, and really art therapy is something that we should all try to do at least a little bit in our lives, because it makes life, art is beautiful and our lives are beautiful. Even though life can be hard, life is also beautiful. So
the idea of creating something, again, whether it's for ourselves or for the sake of sharing, is such a beautiful thing too, that that our bodies can do that. It can create something outside of ourselves, which again, going back to in times of illness, when it feels like our body might be failing us, or our body is putting us through such a tough time, or our body is limited otherwise in so many other ways, to be able to still create, whether it's with our hands or whatever, and that have that reminder of what our body is still capable of creating, even in times of our body contributing to loss, is a really beautiful reminder. So with that, yeah, I wanted to hear what you had to say, Jen.
So what I did, I actually never really used like pen and paper or like physical art for when I was first diagnosed, because I was 26 and I didn't look up anything. So I just kind of coped with it, and I kind of coped with mine with humor, so that kind of art. And when I was learning about the surgery I was going to have, my surgeon had told me he didn't know how extensive my disease was, so it was either going to be like a small resection, a partial gastrectomy, or a total gastrectomy. And so in order to present this information to a family, used to do YouTube videos. And so I cut out stomachs and I put it on a doll, and I did like different surgeries. It was either going to be like this or like this. So even though it was like something that wasn't funny, I tried to make it so people can just kind of laugh with me, because if I could not personally cope with this unless like people were smiling and feeling good about it, because that's just how I am. I'm not like a downer person. I like to lift people up, and I know it was a scary diagnosis, and for me, like, they thought it was pretty early, and I didn't really know. I I didn't know how serious stomach cancer was because I didn't look. I didn't look to see the statistics. I didn't look to see like just how dire everything was if people were stage 4 or late stage. I didn't know. I was blissfully unaware. So being that everyone thought I was stage 1, I was able to kind of just make sort of light out of it for me, because even though I was scared out of my mind, so that's how I coped with it, like through humor and like making it real for people, like through just like what cutting a stomach would, even though I use scissors, it was just something funny. And then from there, as I was recovering, that's when I started to doodle. And like because recovery was hard, I had issues with my esophagus and I had issues with my feeding tube, and that's when I started to just make shapes. And I realized the more stressed I was, the sharper my shapes were, and the darker I would fill in colors. And then otherwise, if I wasn't as stressed, I was just more just going with the flow. There were more swirlies and lighter colors, and sometimes they're a mixture of both. There'd be some big marks and then little marks together. And then sometimes I just like to take a day where I just need to decompress about something, and I'll just make something. It'll be in the back of a piece of paper. And so that's just kind of how I cope through, because I have other conditions too, where I have chronic pain, and so that's how I deal with it. Instead of taking out on other people, I take it out on my pen.
Yeah. No, and it's true that the art that we create, again, this is like where the unconscious comes out too, whether we mean to or not, the art really like speaks to how we're feeling. Like you said, the sharper lines, the darker colors. Sometimes it's by choice. Sometimes we look at it after and we're like, I'm seeing a pattern here. Like this is happening when I'm more often stressed. And so art really is reflective of the unconscious, of our feelings, of our experience. And that's one of the many reasons that it is so healing. Is it's like that art that we create, seeing those sharp lines and those dark colors when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling in pain, and looking at it and kind of feeling like, wow, like my art gets me, is a really healing kind of feeling.
Right.
And when it came to that chronic pain, tell us if you used art either for that, or just if you happened to use art and doodling like during that part where like the chronic pain was frequent, or obviously like recurring for you. How did the use of art have an effect on that?
So in pain therapy, because I took pain therapy, I had a pain therapist as well. They ask you to be present with the pain and feel it, and then breathe it out. And so I would kind of take that with art. Like I would feel the pain and I would put it on the paper, and then once the doodle was done, I felt like it was kind of my way of breathing it out. And so that way my focus was on creating the doodle and not wallowing in the pain.
Yeah, kind of like what we were talking about before, of how art allows us to like take it outside from ourselves, our body, our mind, and like put it on something else, and even say like, okay, this pain still exists, but I don't have to hold on to it like inside of me. Like I can put it here and honor that pain, like recognize its existence, but I don't have to hold on to every ounce of that weight.
Exactly.
And that separation too. And yeah, sometimes that visual of taking what we want in, letting out what we want out, even like what we were talking about with the draw your breathing and the doodles. I mentioned how one of the things you can visualize as you breathe and as you draw the lines, the scribbles, is breathing in, embracing like what makes you feel good, what makes you feel safe and peaceful, and breathing out whatever's weighing on you. And so sometimes just having that visual of like taking in what I want and releasing what I don't want, art is like a really helpful tool with that.
Absolutely. I agree. I also like doing the paint nights. I go and follow along with, I can do the doodling, but to actually create like a landscape sort of picture, I'm unable to do that. So that was also another therapeutic way I could cope with things too, is actually going and doing something I would never be able to do on my own, is to do a guided kind of art lesson.
Yeah.
Something really fun, something I can actually put on my wall and be proud of it.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's good to like have that product too that you can be proud of it. Sometimes it's more about the process over product, but sometimes it's like I want to just prove to myself that I could make something and, do something beautiful during this time of so much darkness.
Yeah. And during
Yeah.
COVID, I did paint by numbers. I did got a whole
Mhm.
on
Yeah,
Amazon.
it's so satisfying, so therapeutic. Yeah. And also with chronic pain, as we know, like one of the like mental emotional strategies is just trying to get our mind off of it. And so a lot of art exercises are really helpful with that because again, just like gives you something to focus on while also being naturally kind of relaxing. But it just, similar to reading a book or writing something or watching something, anything that like takes your mind away from the pain. But being that art also combines so many other factors too. Sometimes it's just like the distraction piece. That's what we really need the most in the moment.
Exactly. You can't always hide from it, but you can figure out ways to manage it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we
Well,
have,
thank you so much, Emily, for your time. And thank you for everyone for tuning in. And we hope to see you next time for our next Mind Body Spirit
yeah.
Mind Body Spirit series. Take care.
Thank you guys all so much. Have a great weekend.